What's good, everyone? This is Jin. Today's video is going to be a little bit different and unique. It's certainly interesting from my perspective, but in relation to a lot of the Extreme Z awakenings that have been happening through the Extreme Z areas for units like the physical type Super Saiyan 2 Gohan or AGL Super Saiyan Goku and all those types of units. I actually had a conversation a while back with Merged or at UD Merged on, a couple of units that I would love to see in EZA and what kind of potential, builds that would come about with Extreme Z awakening certain units. Now, one of my top picks were the Strength type Super Saiyan Bardock, which you're seeing now with the, modified EZA stats or whatnot. Both Merge and Carry were kind enough to provide footage for, testing the unit out, but I do have to specifically call out Sprite Yena. I'll put the Twitter handles for each of these guys in the pinned comment, but he was the one, or he or she was the one that actually came up with the concept of the stats for the EZA build for the Strength type Super Saiyan 2 Bardock. So I certainly appreciate all the help from those guys, and again, just wanted to show appreciation for the work they did for it. So, finally got to the point where we're actually talking about this unit. I think from a timing standpoint, it actually makes sense, considering all the various units that, we've seen stats for. So, you got a glimpse of the, performance up to this point on the unit, but let me actually just kind of break down what the stats upgrades are for the EZA. So, leader skill for this guy was converted over to all types key plus 3 HP attack and defense increase of 77%. Certainly reasonable. I think the current state is, obviously less, and it's I can't remember the exact stats, but either way, that's kind of the final state that they suggest. And then the passive skill is going to be all allies key plus 3 attack increase to 30%. So I think it's kind of maintained there. I think there might have currently there might be like a HP restriction, has to be above like 30% or something like that. But in addition to that, support to allies, they embedded in attack and defense increase of 70%, plus an additional defense increase of 70% when facing only one enemy, and then plus an additional defense increase of 70% after a character has performed 3 super attacks. And then for the SA, level 14 plus, from a super attack standpoint, you're looking at causes supreme damage to enemy and raises attack and defense by 50% for 6 turns. So a lot of, looks like the focus is more toward like support allies in addition to being able to defend pretty well. There's a lot of secondary passes built in around the defense, but at least you're also seeing some decent attack buffs toward, from both the super attack and passive skill set. I think it's a little bit of a nice touch where you've got that 6-turn ability to raise attack and defense by 50%. Now, 50% might be a little bit substantial compared to some of the other stuff we've seen, but certainly in the realms of reality. I think from an offensive standpoint, from the glimpses I've seen so far of this version of Bardock, I think it's certainly reasonable from an offensive standpoint. A lot of the units, at level 10 links at 100% potential, units like the physical type Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, the AGL Super Saiyan Goku that, obviously got the EZA through the Extreme Z areas. They kind of put up similar numbers. I would say anywhere from like, 1.8 to the ones that outperform others, 2.7 million maybe with like support on the rotation. That's kind of, from an offensive standpoint, what I would expect. I haven't seen what the defensive stats are for Bardock in this case, so I don't really have a comparison point in terms of what the stats overall look like. So I'll be on the lookout while I'm commentating on this video. If I see that there's footage of like the defensive stats being shown, we can certainly talk about it. But from an overall build standpoint, it looks like for obvious reasons, they've got the unit linked up with the transforming Bardock unit. Like I said, obvious reasons. It makes perfect sense as to what that is. I think I actually saw the defense there of 267,000, so that's actually quite good from a defensive standpoint. And honestly, I'm kind of in the same wish list when it comes to the EZA for this unit. I rather, instead of this guy being, an offensive powerhouse, I would much prefer, along with the support to allies, a little bit heavier focus on defense is kind of my preference. So they're pretty much right down my alley in terms of like what I would look for. So With that being said, the point I wanted to make was, 250k plus toward defense is certainly very nice to have, considering this guy's primary function would probably be a floating support from my perspective. So I guess in that regard, because of the floater position, he's not always going to be on a rotation, like every offsetting rotation. It's more or less like very limited in terms of like the number of times the unit will show up as the third slot unit. But it does definitely kind of raise the question of what kind of impact would that have on the super attack ability to kind of raise attack and defense by 50% for 6 turns. But anything's better than nothing, right? That's the way I look at it. So like, even from a floater position, he's still going to benefit at least a little bit from the the buff from attack and defense. So I guess it's not that big of a deal, but obviously you'll see better results in the first or second slot, because every offsetting rotation he's essentially going to show back up. But I think for me, even with the EZA, my primary function for this unit would still be to utilize him as a floating support, for the rest of the allies on the team. And I kind of miss including this guy on team builds because of how reliant I was in the past in terms of like, the showcases for certain units. A lot of times I would link this guy up with the, Super Saiyan units that I was trying to show off in the showcase, back in the day. So a lot of good memories behind it, and I'm certainly looking forward to bringing this guy back on, showcase videos and what have you, because I'm actually having a very good time with the physical Super Saiyan 2 Gohan and the AGL Super Saiyan Goku. I actually have a legitimate reason to be able to run them on a team, and they're not going to be such a defensive liability where I can't, where I eliminate the option to include them. You know what I'm saying? So like, if I can see something similar with the Bardock unit, I would be perfectly happy. So I'm looking over at the current state of the unit, and first of all, the leader skill is all types key +2 attack and defense, HP attack and defense increase to 30%. So to make it somewhat more realistic, I guess they went with the 77%. It might be something like 50% if they do end up with an EZA for the unit. I don't know for sure, but that's kind of my guess with that. Super attack ability, I'm looking at the current state, causes supreme damage to enemy and raises attack for 6 turns. So again, there's already a 6-turn criteria for the buff to attack right now with the super attack. So I guess what they did was simply add the defensive component of it, but they increased it to 50% for 6 turns. I think based on what I'm reading right now, yeah, so it's still the same. It's currently raises attack by 50% for 6 turns. So the modification they made was applied toward defense as well, which is 100% reasonable. I would actually like to see them do it in that fashion. That would actually be great. And then for the passive skill, again, it's pretty simple. Right now, as of today, attack increase to 30% for all allies when HP is 30% or above. So again, all the secondary stuff built in toward attack and defense is certainly going to be very, very beneficial to have. And based on the stuff I'm seeing, I mean, let's take a quick look at the Dokkan mode attack and see what the overall output is. 2.2 million, with no support on the rotation. I think that's actually pretty good. In some ways, he might actually be outperforming what potentially might come out as a quote-unquote formal EZA. I think with support benchmark, I don't know, like this is just a wild guess for me, but I would expect the unit to be like 1.6, 1.7 million range from an attack stat standpoint without the support. But hey, the higher the numbers, the better for me, so I'm not going to complain about that. You know what I'm saying? So overall, my impression of the build here is pretty good. I actually like it a lot. The simple fact that again, the priorities more so toward defense, even though there are buffs toward attack. A lot of focus is toward defense, along with supporting functions as a team member, for the rest of the allies. Like, I honestly think this is pretty much the way to treat this unit, and of course, the AGL transforming Bardock is going to be very, very happy about the upgrade from the Strength type Super Saiyan 2 Bardock. It's just kind of bewildering how they really haven't done the EZAs for the Bardock units up until this point. I've said this numerous times that, you know, Saiyan Day this past year would have been a perfect time to roll that out, but, you know, not only did they not come out with an EZA, they didn't touch any of the units, like the physical version of Super Saiyan Bardock, the tech Super Saiyan Bardock, and then of course this version of Super Saiyan 2 Bardock. All three of those guys would bring so much to the table if, you know, there were just simple, minimal updates into their skill sets with an EZA. You know, it would actually be very good. And all three of those Bardock units, they provide support to the rest of the team members in one way or another. The physical type obviously provides support. The tech type is a key converter, so it converts strength type key into tech type key. So a lot of the tech Super Saiyan units would certainly benefit from having that unit on the team. Again, right now you just can't do that unless it's an easy event because of the defensive risk you bring with the units. So, you know, as long as they provide the EZAs for those three units all at the same time, that'd be pretty fantastic. I'm just curious to see what the final state would be, but I don't know. From a timeline standpoint, they might just mess around and wait till next year during Saiyan Day to do that. I hope they don't, but it's certainly possible. The sooner they do it, the better for me. And it, you know, I do have hope for that because they have, you know, done that for physical Super Saiyan 2 Go on, the most recent one, and I was extremely happy about it. So maybe they'll do it sooner than later. But let me know what your thoughts are on the build for this EZA for Super Saiyan 2 Bardock, and let me know your thoughts. All right, I'll see you guys later.